Welcome to the American Football Stories podcast brought to you by Coach Paint. Today is November 15th, 2020. I'm your host, Nick Knudsen. My co-host with me, as always, Robert Parker out of New Jersey. On today's episode, we'll recap this weekend's college football action.
What time is it? Game time! It's going to be special. They're going to talk about this forever.
Welcome to American Football Stories.
Puts his head down, crashes and spins, and dives. Touchdown!
Bringing together the many perspectives that make up college football in the NFL.
Football is one of the greatest sports ever invented.
From players and coaches.
Believe, baby, believe, baby.
Hey, we playing to win right here, fellas.
To the front office and scouts.
The public is finally beginning to catch up, but they don't even know half the truth.
Us against the world, let's get it.
Your hosts, Robert Parker and Nick Knudsen, bring you American Football Stories.
Welcome to the college football section of today's podcast. All right, we're going to be recapping this past weekend's action, but first we want to acknowledge the games that weren't played this weekend, including three of the top five teams in America. Number one, Alabama versus LSU. Ohio State at Maryland, flat out canceled. Texas A&M at Tennessee. Big list of games this week, folks. Georgia at Missouri. Coastal Carolina, Troy. Auburn, Mississippi State. A lot of ranked action off the board. Gardner-Webb at Charlotte. North Texas, UAB. Rice at Louisiana Tech. Memphis at Navy. Pittsburgh at Georgia Tech. Air Force at Wyoming. Cal at Arizona State. Utah at UCLA. And UL Monroe at Arkansas State in the Sun Belt. Was cool, Rob, though. The Pac-12, because they have such a limited schedule, we saw something with the Cal, Arizona State, Utah, UCLA. Cal and UCLA were good to go, so the Pac-12 okayed them to go ahead and play a pickup game on Sunday in the Rose Bowl. What'd you think of that? Little Sunday morning, 9 a.m. local time football out there on the West Coast.
I thought that was pretty awesome for them to reschedule the game and kind of push it towards Sunday. I think the Pac-12 and all these conferences definitely trying to do everything in their power possible to kind of get, one of their teams in the college football playoffs. So I thought that was an awesome job on the Pac-12's behalf.
Yeah, I think we'll see a little more of that going forward. We've already seen Arizona State and Colorado get canceled for next week, and I think they gave the Buffs their blessing to go ahead and try to find a game, presumably in conference if another one gets canceled or rescheduled. Okay, let's move on to the Tuesday night results. Let's go over all the action. Akron falls to Ohio 24-10. Kent State 62. Bowling Green 24. Buffalo 42. Miami, Ohio 10. Wednesday night we had three games in the MAC. Ball State defeats Eastern Michigan 38-31. Western Michigan 41. Toledo 38. Central Michigan 40. Northern Illinois 10. On Thursday night we only had one game. Boise State crushed Colorado State in that one. And on Friday night, had a few games. FAU 38, FIU 19. Nice little South Florida battle right there. And Iowa just obliterated Minnesota. Can't figure out what's going on with the Gophers. I mean, I should say, not that I can't figure out. The defense obviously struggling. A little bit surprising what's going on with the Gophers. But, Rob, we want to talk about number 7 Cincinnati blasting East Carolina. And the Bearcats were absolutely dominant in this game. You had nearly 700 yards of offense compared to 87 passing yards for East Carolina. Absolute dominant performance. The Bearcats even faked the punt up 42-7 in the fourth quarter. Luke Fickell apologized for that after the game, said that was a call on the field. And some people are maybe questioning, is Cincinnati running up the score a little bit to get some bonus points with the committee? I don't know how much a difference a couple scores late like that makes. I mean, 42-7 versus 55-17. It's all pretty good. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, Nick, in that regards. And, I think all the coaches in the nation right now kind of know that's the formula to get in the playoffs. And that's to kind of run up the score and to kind of have that eye test. I know Luke Fickell was forming some questions early in the week about, the strength of schedule. And one way to combat the strength of schedule is to actually go out there and kind of, dominate. And I think that's what Cincinnati did this week with East Carolina.
I'm not a guy who has a big problem with the run it up thing. You're East Carolina. You're in the same division This isn't like beating up on some poor FCS school. Like, it's play ball. Play ball. I hate the whining afterward. Did you see the long conversation the two coaches had afterward?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, I'm definitely with you on that one. If you don't want the score to be ran up, stop it. I
Stop 'em.
mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it comes down to. You know, granted, this is the year that's definitely you're going to see high scoring games, and for great reasons. Everyone's trying to get in that college football playoffs, and Cincinnati and BYU is right there, and they definitely going to have to run up the score moving forward.
Notre Dame on Saturday. We'll jump over to Saturday now. Notre Dame goes up to Boston College. The number 2 Irish. They follow up that Clemson win. No hangover here. As expected, Boston College hung around the first half. This was a good game at first, but Notre Dame really just pulled away. And the big difference was the ground game. Notre Dame rushes for close to 300 yards, 274. Boston College only goes for 85 on the ground. Absolute control of the ground game for Notre Dame paves the way for an easy victory over Boston College.
Yeah, definitely easy victory for Notre Dame. We've been talking about Notre Dame being a fraud, somewhat, with the
I've been
schedule that
talking
they
about
had.
it.
And yeah, you have, Nick.
You don't have to take my bullets. I can take my bullets.
So with that being said, Notre Dame actually came out, just like you said, no hangover from that Clemson win, and they took care of business. Notre Dame is another one of those teams that we talk about in regards to Cincinnati and BYU that's right there in the mix of things. So they're gonna have to put up points on the board and kind of run it up a little bit, even though that Notre Dame schedule is a little bit more difficult than the Cincinnati schedule and the BYU schedule. So they have a little bit more leeway right there. But you have to love that red bandana game. Like that always gets me pumped up when I'm watching the red bandana game, Boston College.
That's a cool initiative they have up there. Definitely like this. That's one of the few times I don't mind wearing white jerseys at home. Unless you're Dallas Cowboys, you really shouldn't do it. But that's one of the few ones I'll give you a pass on that. So all right, let's go down to Gainesville. The number 6 Florida Gators. They had Felipe Franks, former Florida Gator. That's hard to say. Former Florida Gator quarterback coming back into the swamp. And Franks has been playing well this year. I mean, a lot of his, to me, I credit a lot of the success he's had to his revitalization under Dan Mullen. But on the other hand, he helped the Gators work their way back into becoming the program they are today. Now, Kyle Trask took over last year. You saw the difference in play between the two last year. And you saw it a little bit again here Saturday night. Of course, Trask has a lot more to work with than Felipe Franks. But Franks did make the Gators pay. All right. You had a 47-yard pass, like an 82-yard pass. The Hogs hit on 3 huge plays that ended up in touchdowns. And this is my concern for the Gators. We'll get to Kyle Trask and his 6 touchdown performance in a minute because the offense is fantastic. But we've talked about the offense a ton. If you want to talk about the Gators and you want to talk about college football playoff and beating Alabama, step 1, you don't have to have a perfect defense. But these offenses that are capable of hitting, they got away with some against Georgia last week. You brought up the drop pass by the tight end. We also saw many open receivers last week in that Georgia game, at least 3 or 4 occasions that weren't hit by Georgia quarterbacks. Felipe hit on those receivers. And I'll tell you what, the announcers did a good job calling this out. On that 4th down they missed on that slant over the middle where Ventrell Miller deflected that pass, knocked it down. He had a guy wide open on the sideline too. So missed opportunity there for Arkansas in some regards. But this Gators defense, how do they stop giving up the big play? What's going on? Is it the secondary? Is it the pass rush? Is it the linebacker? Like what's going on, Rob? How do we get this Gators defense to stop giving up these huge plays?
Yeah, early in the season, Nick, if you ask me, it was pretty much a complete bust, with the whole defense. The back end wasn't playing very well. The front end wasn't playing very well. But, over the last couple of weeks, I've actually seen a little shift. The front 7 has actually been playing way better than they've been playing. Yeah. But it definitely boils down to the secondary. It just seems like, the safeties and the DBs just can't keep their eyes in the right place, whether they're playing man coverage or zone coverage, and they're definitely leaving people running free, over the top of them. But just like you said, those quarterbacks haven't been able to hit on those throws. But I tell you what, Mac Jones from Alabama, he's going to hit on those throws.
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, he's going to hit on those throws. So if Florida really wants to be elite, they can't have, receivers just running free because those good quarterbacks in the conference or in the nation is definitely going to hook up with those receivers for big time games.
Kyle Trask goes for 356 yards and 6 touchdowns. Whew, whew. It really, watching him, it really doesn't get much better than that at the quarterback position in college football. And I'll be honest, if it were me voting, if I had a Heisman vote, Trevor Lawrence has missed 2 games. You're done. You're out. Justin Fields, you missed 1. You were only playing 8, so you would have had to have like the most ridiculous 8-game stretch ever. What Kyle Trask is doing against an all SEC schedule is historic, and it needs to be appreciated. So I honestly think outside of some combination of Harris and Mac Jones, Najee Harris and Mac Jones and Trask, those are the 3 front runners for the Heisman. And I think Jones and Harris will have their up and down games. Like one guy will get a little more than another one game, that they have to share the load a little bit. Trask is got this thing, I think. I don't see anyone. I mean, Zach Wilson, is he really going to be pulling votes? We like BYU. We've been pulling for BYU. I don't think Zach Wilson's stealing votes. Who's really going to challenge Trask for the Heisman?
Just like you said, I think it comes down to Mac Jones. And I think, the deciding game is probably going to be, if Florida kind of wins out for the rest of their remaining schedule. I think, the deciding vote is definitely going to come down to that Alabama-Florida game in the SEC championship. So if Kyle Trask can win that one, I definitely think Kyle Trask gets the nod in the Heisman race over Mac Jones. But once again, Kyle Trask is having a Joe Burrow type year. And I think one thing that you mentioned is that he's doing it against an all SEC schedule. Joe Burrow had a couple non-conference games, where he could have lit it up in the first half and kind of sat out in the second half. But Kyle Trask is not doing that. He's actually, managing a game from start to finish. So I think Kyle Trask definitely should be in the Heisman race right now.
Well, six touchdowns yesterday and 356 yards. He didn't finish the game. Emory Jones got in and got a couple solid drives. And by the way, if you're a Florida Gators fan, which Robert's got the hat on, I'm a Florida grad. We're Gator fans here. We openly admit that, so you know where we're coming from, so you can see where our bias lies sometimes. But what's exciting about that is Emory Jones just looked absolutely fantastic. Got a little preview with him. But Trask could have had 8 or 9 touchdown passes. I mean, Dan Mullen's calling plays where Kadarius Toney's thrown toward the end zone. Like, give it to the guy who's going for the Heisman. I don't know. I thought that was, it could have been 8. It could have been 8 easily yesterday, right?
Yeah, it definitely could have. Just, Kyle Trask having a command of the offense, knowing where he wants to go with the ball. The pre-snap reads, the after post-snap reads, everything. He's just clicking on all cylinders right now. And I really think, Kyle Pitts being out is definitely going to be a great help moving forward. And I know, people might, look at that and say, hey, Kyle Pitts being out, that's going to help the Florida team. But yeah, because I think it's going to actually give an opportunity for more players to step up. And we saw a heck of a game from Keon Zipper and Kamori Gamble at the tight end positions. And we kind of see Trevon Grimes and Justin Shorter coming along. So I think the absence of Kyle Pitts definitely, makes this offense even more of a threat moving forward.
Yeah, Grimes only his second ever 100-yard time exceeding 100 yards in the Gators uniform, and that's really not because he's not capable of it. There's just so many weapons. You don't get the opportunity to get that many balls thrown your way, and Grimes had a hell of a game. All right, we got to move on. Miami survives a trip to Virginia Tech. I thought it was ludicrous that the Hurricanes were underdogs in this game, and I was wrong because Virginia Tech really controlled this game, and Miami once again, ever since that Clemson game, the shine has come off this Miami offense a little bit. That's the knock I'll give. The pro I'll give is without De'Aaron King, they don't win. Maybe they only win the Pitt game. I mean, De'Aaron King is the difference maker this year. This Hurricanes team's now 7-1, and credit to Miami, credit to King, credit to Diaz. They're finding ways to win, which is what they haven't done in the past. So now you're getting the job done. You're sticking around, lingering on the outside. You're the outside horse in the ACC race right now. Survival win against Virginia, survival win against NC State, survival win against Virginia Tech. If you keep playing like this, though, I just feel like you're going to get bit one of these weeks. And you'd like to see a Miami offense that you feel like is capable of a little more, really kind of put these games away earlier than they are. And Georgia Tech, I think you'll be fine, but I worry with Wake Forest and North Carolina coming up around the schedule. We saw what those two could do in an offensive explosion this weekend.
Yeah, once again, this is a game that, Miami could have fairly well lost. And just like you said, we actually had a little trepidation looking at the lines of this game earlier last week about, Miami being the underdog with Virginia Tech coming off a loss to Liberty. But once again, Virginia Tech controlled this game pretty much the entire game. They actually had some bad, plays and some miscues, especially the late interception for the Virginia Tech quarterback. And just like you said, De'Aaron King is actually having a heck of a season. And without De'Aaron King, who knows where this Miami program will be, especially in the win-loss column. But they definitely have pieces on the outside, definitely have pieces on the defense side of the ball. So I think the program is actually coming back around. But just like we said, the U is not back yet.
No, they're not back until they're winning titles. So that's not even. I wasn't even the point I was trying to make on that. I was saying like they need to. I'd like to see this offense really take command. They need it, but of course the defense. You made a good point. The late picks, the defense did come up big late for the Canes, so you got to credit the defense on that too.
Yeah, great win for Miami. They gutted it out. And right now, whatever conference you're in, ACC, SEC, I think you're just trying to get to the finish line. So whether you win by 20 or 30 or whether you win by, 1 or 2, I think a win is a win definitely at this point of the year right now.
All right, let's move on to the number 10 Indiana Hoosiers blanking Michigan State. And Rob, we did an episode where we were practicing in the summer. We had our good friend of the program, Jeremy Coleman, on, and Jeremy's big Indiana guy. You guys might have heard him guest host a few weekends ago. We'll have him on hopefully in the next week or two to talk some Hoosiers football. But he gave us an Indiana predictions report on the season, and basically this season is going exactly the way Jeremy Coleman saw it going, because Rob and I were laughing at him while we were doing the picks. We're like, oh, the Hoosiers, Big Ten contenders, huh? He's like, no, seriously, this guy's pretty good. He told us all about Michael Penix Jr. He told us all about the different players on the defense that he liked. This team is playing some good football, and they are the contenders in the East next to Ohio State. They'll get their shot at the Buckeyes in the horseshoe this week. But for now, let's talk about the 24-0 win over Michigan State, because they held the Spartans under 200 yards of offense, and it was boring. It was a boring game. I watched the first half. After the second quarter, I'm like, I'm out here. Indiana just looked dominant. This is no longer a nice little team. They are a dominant Big Ten football team right now, especially with Michigan and Penn State being down. They're definitely feeling that. They're definitely feeling that next level.
They definitely are, and right now they're one of the complete teams in the Big Ten. They're playing good on both sides of the ball, and just like you said, they held Michigan State to a goose egg. I know Michigan State actually has been playing, some decent ball, early in the year. But once again, I think this Indiana team has, hit the gas, and they're actually trying to be contenders within the Big Ten Conference. And good for them, because they're playing heck of a football this year. And a tough loss though for that program with Tom Allen's son going down.
Yeah, that was a big loss for the defense. I know he's an important part to what they do, but probably got way on the head coach as well. But they're still probably among the best stories in college football, if not the best story in college football this year. So exciting to see what Tom Allen is building there, and we'll see how they do going forward. All right, Oregon in the Pac-12. They're really, in my mind, there's a couple teams that are still technically alive, but Oregon's really the only contender for a playoff spot right now, in my mind. They take care of Washington State 43-29, but it was a fight. It wasn't an easy game. They were down at halftime, 19-14. They put up 22 fourth quarter points to really run away with it. About nearly 600 yards of offense, nice even split, nearly 270 yards rushing there for the Ducks. But Oregon did turn the ball over 3 times, Rob, and they did let Washington State hang around, and they showed that they're mortal. The Ducks are mortal. They can be gotten this year.
Just like you mentioned earlier with Oregon, I think that's definitely one of the few teams in the Pac-12 that can actually contend for a college playoff spot. Excuse me. But once again, they definitely let Washington State kind of stay in the game earlier. they pulled away. I'm really kind of holding off on Oregon right now. I know they're breaking in a new quarterback. They do have CJ Verdell that they can kind of lean on in the running game. But once again, they've had a lot of opt-outs due to COVID, and they had a lot of players kind of opt out going to the pros. We kind of know those players. We harped on those players early in the year. But Oregon is a talented team, and I think Mario Cristobal can get the job done. So I'm not worried about Oregon. I think another team we're going to talk about in the Pac-12 that I'm worried about is USC, but we will get there later.
Get there, yeah, we'll get there in a few minutes here. But first, we're gonna go with the number 13 Wisconsin Badgers playing their second game of the season, but sure looked like they're in midseason form, going to the Big House and trouncing Michigan 49-11. This game wasn't remotely close from the get-go. I believe it was 35-0. I kind of tuned out a little bit the second. Yes, it was 28-0. Wolverines got a field goal on the board. So it's 28-0 before the Wolverines even showed up to play. Wisconsin doubles up Michigan in yardage, and all the Fire Harbaugh people are going to be out in full force this week. Rob, we've talked about it. It's the easy thing to say, fire this guy, fire that guy. I went through it today. I wrote a piece on this today, and Jim Harbaugh is in the ballpark of Bo Schembechler in winning percentage. He's in the ballpark of Gary Mueller. He's in the ballpark of Lloyd Carr. They're all in the 700s. Harbaugh has the lowest of the four, but the thing he has in common with all of those guys is he doesn't have one full national title to his name, just like none of them. And I think at some point you have to look yourself in the mirror. If you're Michigan, and you have to say, we've won a half of a national title since Harry Truman was president. Yeah, we're capable of winning national championships. We're Michigan. Look at Ohio State down the road. We're obviously envious as hell of what Ohio State's doing, and we believe we can do the same thing. However, we haven't gotten it done. So I think the expectation on Harbaugh, the biggest sin committed in the Jim Harbaugh era has been the expectations were here. The expectations, you're supposed to underpromise and overdeliver, and he overpromised. And Michigan overpromised, and they went nuts with the ESPN trips to Rome and all the other camps and everything. They just went crazy at the beginning, and it set expectations sky high. Here's the next Nick Saban, which I think we've retired that saying. I don't think people are saying that, because I think people are starting to get smart enough to realize there's not going to be a next Nick Saban, like to the level to which Saban has dominated, won titles. I don't know if we're going to see that again in our lifetimes. But Jim Harbaugh, I still believe, is as good a fit. Michigan fired Rich Rod because he wasn't a culture fit. He wasn't a Michigan man. He didn't get the traditions. They fired Brady Hoke because they thought he couldn't handle the big time, right? They thought, hey, he's a nice guy, but hey, he takes his headset off every time they're on offense. Like, he was kind of a goofy, lovable dude, but yeah, he wasn't getting it done. Let's hire this guy. He's got all the traits. He's Bo Schembechler's quarterback. He gets Michigan A+ hire when they hired him. For $8 million a year, though, not performing at the level we want, and Ohio State's still killing us every year. I know it's a difficult situation, but I'm still in the camp of just calm down, let this thing play out. Stay patient. Stay patient, Michigan. And it's really hard to say that after you lost like this, and now you're 1-3 on the season. But that's where I stand. I don't know if you're going to go out and find a much better coach than Jim Harbaugh for Michigan.
And I definitely agree with you on that one. But one thing that I have to say is that, the narrative surrounding Harbaugh and the Michigan program was that, hey, stay patient, give him time, let him get his players in there. But, hey, he has his players in there. He has his players in there, and nothing hasn't changed. They've had, ups and downs. You see, the players that they're actually putting in the NFL. So they're getting type of caliber players that they're actually, putting in the NFL, but at the end of the day, it's just not translating into wins within that conference and on a national scale. So I think something needs to be tweaked, but just like you said, kind of firing them right now is definitely, kind of ride it out and be patient with them a little bit. But once again, something is definitely going wrong. I don't know if they need to kind of bring in, personnel on the offense, defense side of ball, new schemes or something. But Jim Harbaugh definitely has his players in there, so something is definitely going wrong.
There was quite a bit of turnover from last year, wasn't there? So that's one thing, right? Especially on the offensive side of the ball. But the one thing that I find confusing with this whole era that Harbaugh's been there is he came in and it was like, we're going to be like ground and pound, baby. Just like Stanford 49ers Harbaugh. But then they all of a sudden, they kind of woke up and realized, it's getting outdated. We need it. Even Nick Saban converted. And they're like, let's go. But then I feel like he hasn't let them fully go in that direction. There's still there's something holding them back. They got Shea Patterson from Ole Miss, where he looked awesome in that Ole Miss offense his freshman year. He comes up to Michigan, and he's all of a sudden offensively inept. Like, they didn't use him the way he should have been used, to the degree which he should have been used. And I feel like they're running the same thing. I feel like there's a hesitancy to fully commit to a wide open style of offense. And honestly, if you're Michigan, your goal should not be to win the Big Ten, not win a national title, obsess over Ohio State. What do you have to do to beat Ohio State? Because you can beat all these other teams in the conference. You've done it. But you haven't beaten Ohio State a lot this decade. What you need to do to beat Ohio State. And to me, you need to have an offense that can go toe-to-toe with the Buckeyes. When they have one of their days where they put up 40, you can put up 40 as well. And they just don't have that under Harbaugh.
Yeah, they don't. And I could be wrong on this, but to me, it just seems like one of the recruiting pitches that Harbaugh has out there is like, hey, come to the Michigan program. You know, I had great success on the NFL level and the next level. If you want to go to the NFL, come here. I will prepare you and you will make the transition. However, at a lot of these other programs, these coaches really don't care about the transition on the next level. They just want you to kind of grow yourself and groom yourself for the program. So I think, you know, Harbaugh actually has to get out that mode and get those athletes to kind of compete against Ohio State. I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones, for example, was a five-star coming out of Crass Tech. Heck of a receiver, heck of an athlete, but it just didn't translate at Michigan for some reason.
But he's making catches right now for the Browns, right? He's making some nice. So what happened at Michigan? Why wasn't he doing that at Michigan?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you said in regards to the quarterback play. I think, you know, us being Florida fans, you know, the quarterback play can ruin a program. It can get coaches fired. It can do a lot. And we've seen that being Florida Gators fans. And I think this is the issue that Harbaugh is running with. Once he get his quarterback, he's going to be good. But no quarterback, he's going to struggle.
Yeah, and I do agree. They have that's been the one position they really haven't had truly elite talent since he's been in Ann Arbor. Shea Patterson was a good college quarterback, but you can't call him an elite college quarterback. So if they were to get someone in there who's an elite quarterback, I think Milton's okay from what we've seen. He's too young to really judge that all that harshly, but I mean, he beat out Dylan McCaffrey for the job, so he must have been doing something right in the preseason. So we'll see. Give him time to develop. But I don't like the move to rush to get rid of Harbaugh. I think that's a little crazy. But I know I'm probably also in the minority on that one. So, all right, Marshall 42, the number 16 Thundering Herd 42-14 over Middle Tennessee State. You moved to 7-0 with your Marshall. I really just want to reference this game though, Rob. I don't think Marshall got any shot at the playoff, even if they finish undefeated. They're not going to be one of our adoption teams like BYU. But I just want to mention the game because it's the 50th anniversary of the plane crash that killed 75 people. They made We Are Marshall movie with Matthew McConaughey back in the day about it. But some sad events there that they're memorializing this weekend in Huntington. Any thoughts on the Thundering Herd though in general?
Yeah, great win for great win for Marshall this past week, especially with that, you know, anniversary kind of looming over that program and that in their heads. But yeah, this Marshall program is actually, you know, is trending upward. And I tell you what, I kind of like their style of play, and I like their jerseys actually. Those black jerseys with the green on them, those things are slick, man. But with that being said, you're right. Marshall's definitely it's a great program. They're racking up the wins, but they're not, you know, in that playoff contention with the BYUs and the Cincinnatis of the world.
Yeah. I just think it's a little bit schedule's not quite up there. Not that BYU's got a killer schedule. I'm sure there's someone out there that can make the argument. I don't buy that argument as much as I buy with the BYUs and the Cincinnatis of the world. All right, let's move on. We got SMU gets another win to stay unbeaten. or I'm sorry, they actually fell to Tulsa. Sorry, I read that backwards. SMU 24, Tulsa 28. Nice win by the Hurricane. SMU was up in this game. I think that's why I said they win. I was watching this game. They were up, I believe, 24-3 in this game. Weren't they, Rob?
Yeah, you're right about that. But it just seems like this SMU program is like on the cusp of like being a really good program and just being an okay program. And the reason why I say is because they can roll off a couple of wins in a row, but they're going to drop a couple games. And I think that's the thing about being a good program, is that you have to be consistent. And this SMU program is definitely not consistent.
Tulsa's no pushover this year, going into UCF and getting the win. We saw them play Oklahoma State tough too, so that's not a bad AAC team right there. All right, USC goes down to Tucson, sneaks by the Wildcats. Another close win for USC. They got 2 touchdowns on their final 2 drives, end up winning by 4 points. Rob, you were not impressed with USC on Saturday.
I really wasn't. This is another game that USC could actually lost. The Arizona schools, the first week against Arizona State and this past week against Arizona, those could be 2 losses right there. But once again, we talk about the quarterback position and good quarterback play, and USC has that in Kadon Slavis, who actually led 2 good drives to kind of close that game out. But once again, this USC team just doesn't look like they're a complete team on both sides of the ball. It really seems like something is lacking. They don't have a lot of depth. I think that's the big issue right there for the USC program. I think, their starters can kind of compete with anyone, but once again, with injuries and everything coming into it, I just don't think they have the depth to kind of actually make that run like Oregon would within the Pac-12.
Now USC, they are 2-0, which you're only playing 6 regular season games here, so hey, congrats, you're 1/3 of the way there. But do you see any problems with them at Utah versus Colorado versus Washington State at UCLA? See any problems on that schedule? You see a loss there?
I mean, yeah, especially the way that USC's been playing. So Colorado's actually been playing some good ball. I tell you
They
that.
have been.
Yeah,
we saw that coming.
So yeah, no, I don't think anyone of us saw that coming. But well, once again, this USC team, I think they struggle with the depth. I think they do have the high ranked guys, the starters that they need to kind of compete. But if one of those guys go down, I think it's just going to be tough sledding moving forward for USC.
Yeah, that's a good point. As long as they keep those starters healthy, we saw they've had injury problems the last few years. All right, Western Carolina falls to Liberty, 58-14. Liberty stays undefeated. Hugh Freeze in a ton of coaching rumors right now. We'll get to that in a little bit. Northwestern 27, Purdue 20. The Wildcats moved to 4-0. You held Purdue to 2 yards rushing on the day. That's pretty good, but kind of slugged it out with Purdue a little bit. Purdue's 2-1 on the season now. Northwestern, though, halfway through their schedule, 4-0. Big home game against Wisconsin this week. That's likely going to decide the Big Ten West.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we're not making our sports wagers right now, but I'm definitely leaning towards the under in that game. Should be a great defensive battle. But yeah, Northwestern, man, I think, we talk about the BYUs, the Stanfords, the Vanderbilts of the world, and we actually have to throw Northwestern in that talk as well, by them being academic school and getting the type of recruits that other universities get. So good for Northwestern, and they're actually playing good ball on both sides of the ball. So,
I mean, it was 2 seasons ago they were in the Big Ten championship game. They're not far. So yeah. They did win the West 2 seasons ago. They're certainly capable of it. Probably leaning Wisconsin, though, in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I know the COVID situation kind of hurt the Wisconsin program, but I tell you one thing that it probably did is actually got some of those guys back, healthy, that probably had some of those nagging injuries. So good for Wisconsin. Great bounce back, coming to beat Michigan like they did. So I do think they get the job done against Northwestern.
South Alabama falls to Louisiana 38-10. Army drops a game to Tulane 38-12. And Nebraska holds on to beat Penn State. Let's just quickly talk about that one. What is this? Does this win really mean much for Scott Frost? I mean, it's nice for them to obviously get a win here to get to 1-2, but you played competitive against Northwestern. You had a good first half against Ohio State before getting, the talent gap showed up. But these are the type of games you want to see if Nebraska can win. They haven't been winning them the last couple of years. Penn State not playing great, but still, I think people would recognize Penn State as one of the better programs in the Big Ten. Still a good win for Scott Frost in my mind, even though Penn State falls to 0-4.
Yeah, I see where you're going with it, but for me, I don't look at it as a good win for Scott Frost. I know it's Penn State, and I know it's a big time name, but clearly it's definitely something going wrong with that Penn State program. And I'm not, coming down on James Franklin, but I'm just saying, hey, COVID year, shortened off season, a lot of players to opt out. So it's they're dealing with the same thing that other teams are dealing with, but it's definitely something off. Quarterback play, Sean Clifford hasn't been playing that much. You had the medical condition with Journey Brown, kind of retiring from football. So there's a lot of things surrounding that Penn State program. So I don't think this is a good win for Scott Frost in Nebraska. I would like to see Scott Frost in Nebraska beat, Penn State when, Penn State has everything clicking for him. That would be a good win for Scott Frost in Nebraska.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. I can see that. I'm just giving Nebraska credit though, because they haven't been winning these games even when teams are down. So it's nice to see them kind of break through and get something in the positive column there. All right, let's move on. North Carolina 59, Wake Forest 53. What an insane game. North Carolina scores 28 fourth quarter points. This game, these teams combined for over 1,300 yards. Just absolutely. People kept joking the Big 12 is now in the SEC here. Sam Howell, 550 yards passing. Sam Hartman, 429 for Wake. 6 touchdowns for UNC passing, 4 for Wake Forest. 10 touchdowns through the air, over 1,300 yards overall. North Carolina had a big comeback in this one too. I mean, at one point I looked up, I didn't watch much of this game, but at one point I looked up, they were down 45-24 and they end up winning this game. Rob, did you follow this game too much on Saturday? I mean, I was following it from a statistical standpoint, but I was watching some other games while this one was on.
Yeah, I actually got to tune in to a lot of this game, and it was just all offense, no defense. So it was a lot of crazy catches in this one, a lot of, missed tackles that kind of led to like large chunk plays. But I tell you what, the Big 12 did kind of show up in the ACC for at least 1 week. I mean, I know Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers play some Big 12 football, but they actually play defense. So, but this North Carolina Wake game was definitely a seesaw back and forth game. Wake Forest actually has some talent. They really surprised me. They really have some playmakers, some up and coming playmakers on both sides of the ball. But once again, it all comes down to North Carolina. Sam Howell and the receivers that they have out there, Daz Knudsen and Diane Brown. They just have a bevy of weapons, and I think if North Carolina can kind of patch up this defense, they can kind of knock off somebody, moving forward. But once again, they played no defense whatsoever, and it all rests on the shoulder of Sam Howell, which can be overwhelming at sometimes if he's having an off day.
It might be a little freeing for Sam Howell to play expectation-free football for the rest of the season. They got that second loss to Virginia, and that took them out of the ACC title race for good. And obviously you want to be competing for titles, but I think we're just seeing him rip it here, just drop back and throw for 550 yards like that. Some of this can go a long way to building his confidence toward next year when North Carolina might have an even better team and really be ready to take that next step. So this North Carolina program, a lot of fun under Mac Brown. This was a hell of a game, 59-53 over Wake. All right, let's read off a few scores here before we get to our next topic. West Virginia 24, TCU 6, Kentucky 38-35 over Vandy, Illinois and Rutgers, which by the way, I will admit that was the game I was watching at noon, watching some Rutgers football. Rutgers kind of gives away that one late, but Illinois missed a few field goals before kicking the winning field goal at the very end. 23-20 for the Illini. Appalachian State 17, Georgia State 13, Fresno State 35, Utah State 16, UTSA 52, UTEP 21, Western Kentucky 10, Southern Miss 7. Nice defensive battle there. Houston crushes USF 56-21, Georgia Southern 40, Texas State 38. We're getting there, Rob. 31, Virginia. 31, Louisville. 17, Colorado. 35-32 over Stanford. Big upset. San Diego State. 34, Hawaii. 10, Texas Tech. 24, Baylor. 23, Nevada. 27, New Mexico. 20. UCF beats Temple 38-13. NC State 38. FSU 22. And Rob, normally I'd stop and pause and talk about the state of the Florida State program, but we've done that a few times. However, Ole Miss 59, South Carolina 42 spells the end of Will Muschamp at South Carolina. I'm a big Will Muschamp fan. We are Gators who say that, but I like Will Muschamp. I like what Will Muschamp can do in a lot of ways. I get very frustrated watching the offensive side of the ball, and I wish that he would just allow someone to come in and run that offense and have nothing to do with it. But he always seems to want to be semi-involved in it because it looks the same almost every single year. And I think it's a brand of football that can wear on you if you're not winning. If you're winning, it's great. If you're not winning, it definitely wears on you to an accelerated rate because it's not all that fun to watch sometimes, Rob. A lot of good defense, but not much offense.
Yeah, not much offense. I mean, they did have an offense explosion this past week in that Ole Miss game, but that's very few on the Will Musch. Yeah, that bad Ole Miss defense, but very few that you're seeing a South Carolina team or any Will Muschamp team on the offense side of the ball put up that many points. So to your point, I think Will Muschamp is a heck of a recruiter, heck of a defensive mind, but just like you said, it just for some reason he can't get that offense side of the ball up to par with the defense side of the ball. And until he does, I think he's going to be a defensive coordinator at best. Hopefully he gets another shot of a head coaching job because once again, Florida, I love him. I think he's a great defensive mind. But just like you said, to your point, he has to bring someone on the offense side of the ball to get that offense clicking to match up that defense. And it's not like he's lacking for talent as well. We've seen the studs that he has in that program. Joe Horn's son and J.C. Horn, Ken Law coming out of the draft last year. Brian Edwards is playing great ball with the Vegas Raiders right now. So they have talent that's been coming out of that South Carolina program, and they can get talent on the recruiting trail. But just like that, we talk about Harbaugh in Michigan. For some reason, both sides of the ball hasn't meshed up well over the past few years.
And also, like Harbaugh in Michigan, you feel like you're 1,000 miles behind your rival, too, right now, which has got to be extra tough. That doesn't help Muschamp's case. I know they did some renovations up at the stadium this year. They probably want to pack the house when things open up again, get some excitement back into the program. But if that's the approach you're taking, and you're saying if you're South Carolina, you say, Will Muschamp, you're not good enough for us. We're going to go in a different direction. I'd want to see them hire an offensive-minded coach because I think you see Tennessee and Georgia, they struggle on offense. Florida rebuilt their program in a couple of years with an offensive mastermind. So I don't know if there's a Dan Mullen floating around out there, but there is a Hugh Freeze. And unlike Michigan that demands the Michigan man criteria, which Hugh Freeze does not meet. So if he does go to Michigan, then Michigan, you can just take that Michigan man stuff and shove it because that's not gonna cut it anymore if you hire Hugh Freeze. But if you hire Hugh Freeze in South Carolina, he's back in the SEC. He's proven he can win in the SEC. I believe in second chances. I'm not trashing Hugh Freeze. I believe in second chances. I think the guy can do it. But really, what I like about Hugh Freeze is the man knows how to score the football, and that's something that South Carolina hasn't been good at for quite a while. Even under Spurrier, that they were a defensive team under Spurrier, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. For the most part, definitely a defensive team under Spurrier. Spurrier didn't get a chance to kind of bring that high flying, fun and gun system that he had in Gainesville to Columbia, South Carolina. But back to your point that you made earlier, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't help when your rival, your in-state rival, which is Clemson, is just, winning game after game. Right. And then on top of that, when you have, other sports programs in your university is winning, conference championships or national championships with the, women's basketball team and the baseball team, men's baseball team out there in South Carolina. So I think, football is definitely, the driving force within, the collegiate atmosphere, and that's bringing in the revenue. So if your big money revenue sports can't even, bring in that, I think it's definitely a time for a change. And I think, Muschamp just kind of, fall to the wayside in that regard.
Yeah, I guess I can't if just on a strictly results based analysis, you can't argue with it too much. But if you want to go in an offensive direction, that's good. But I guess what I had thought with Muschamp is he could stay there, build up a great defense year in, year out. I mean, he's still producing. We saw Kinlaw last year. He's still producing excellent talent on the defensive side of the football. This corners the last couple of years have been awesome up there in Columbia. But we've seen enough of this sample size with Muschamp to know kind of what it is. And so I don't know if you're South Carolina and you want to advance, you see Tennessee trying to rise up above you. You've been ahead of Tennessee for the better part of the last decade, and now they're kind of neck and neck, maybe edging above you. You want to at least keep that third slot behind, Kentucky's certainly giving South Carolina problems. You want to keep that third slot behind Florida and Georgia and really try to strike every couple of years to get to Atlanta. So, going to be tough to do with Florida and Georgia in the SEC East, though. So whoever's taking that job, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, just to get back on the offensive struggles of South Carolina and the offense under Muschamp. Do you remember a couple seasons ago when they had Deebo Samuel, and it just seems like the offense was just Deebo Samuel and everyone else. They literally ran the offense through Deebo Samuel, whether it was jet sweeps, whether it was Deebo Samuel lining up in the Wildcat, whether it was him, on the go route, or it just seems like he was the offense and that was it. So it just seems like Will Muschamp doesn't get it on the offense side of the ball, or he doesn't want to get it, or he doesn't want to bring in someone who actually do get it to kind of help him out. And I think that's ultimately been his downfall, at least in, with Gainesville and in Columbia.
So how soon will Nick Saban hire Will Muschamp?
I think
will he be on staff by the playoff game?
Yeah. I think he made a call for him right now.
God.
He might be the new analyst, that analyst position that Nick Saban loves.
Oh, or Kirby at Georgia. Muschamp is a Georgia guy.
Yeah.
Muschamp at Georgia, that'd be a problem.
Or how about Mac Brown bringing him back to his staff, and
there we go.
Will Muschamp not moving
they
too
need
far.
A defense.
He could actually keep his house in Columbia right now and just travel up. So
yeah, I like that.
I thought that would probably be a good hire, because North Carolina right now definitely needs some defensive help.
Yeah, his beach house buddy Jimbo over at Texas A&M, that could be a fit too. He's got a lot of options. I mean, so for anyone who trashes Muschamp as a coach, the second he hits the market, 100 people want to hire the guy. The guy knows what he's doing on the defensive side of the football, and on a personal level, I just like the guy. That guy, he's got a great persona on the sideline. I'm about it. Like I think I've always rooted for him, even though Florida or no Florida. I liked him before he got to Florida. I liked him at South Carolina. I just root for the guy. I hope he does well going forward. So best of luck to Coach Muschamp. Best of luck to Carolina on that coaching search there. Probably going to go to the offensive side of the football, you have to think, right?
Yeah.
All right. So UNLV falls to San Jose State 34-17. Washington 27, Oregon State 21. Little Pac-12 action. We'll cover it. Not a ranked game here, but we'll cover it just because, hey, we can talk about the Pac-12 a little bit. Good day on the ground for Washington, 267 yards rushing. Boring second half, though. Not a lot of points scored. They they had a 3-0 edge. Washington had a 3-0 edge over Oregon State. This game was 24-21 at halftime, and both offenses just kind of took the second half off. So how you feeling about the Huskies kicking off their first game of the season? Are they a dark horse in the Pac-12?
I think they could be. And the reason why I say that is because, they do play good on both sides of the ball. They don't have the very explosive offense that a lot of teams have. And they don't have, the stout defense that a lot of these teams have. But, they do play on both sides of the ball. They play complementary football. And anytime you can play complementary football, you're definitely a dark horse to kind of compete against the big boys. So, So I'm going to go say, yeah, they're a dark horse to compete within that conference.
All right, Cal 34, UCLA 34, Cal 10 in the Rose Bowl this morning on Sunday morning. UCLA, go figure, man. I mean, Colorado game last week, they end up giving up a ton of points. This week they shut down Cal. I know Cal's not the most explosive offense, but I do expect a little more from their defense. They've certainly been a good defensive team over the years. Chip Kelly, you got to get this thing rolling at UCLA this year, and this might be a good year to build some momentum. I really still hate the Colorado loss here, but this was one of those pickup games. I think it was set on Friday, so good on the Pac-12 for being flexible, letting them get in. UCLA goes to Oregon next weekend, so I'm not really expecting a follow-up victory for the Bruins. How are you feeling about that one?
Yeah, me either. I know we talk about Harbaugh, we talked about Muschamp just not too long ago. I think another one of those coaches that we have to kind of mention in that same criteria is Chip Kelly. He's been at UCLA, he got his guys in, but it hasn't been translated into wins. So if UCLA and Chip Kelly can go in and knock off Oregon, that would be probably his biggest win of his career so far.
My understanding is they don't have the resources to fire him this year, that they're very cash strapped. So that's my understanding is he's going to be around at UCLA. It's going to be a marriage whether or not UCLA wants him for the next couple of years at least. That's my understanding. So, hey, good for UCLA though. Hopefully they build on some momentum. That would certainly be a hell of a story if Chip Kelly goes back and ruins the Ducks' start to the season. So, Rob, will wrap up the college football segment. We covered a ton of topics tonight. You want to do the Did You Know?
Yeah, if you have nothing else, I can definitely jump into Did You Know for the audience members out there that's tuning in and listening. And
Brought to you by Coach Paint.
Brought to you by Coach Paint. I'm going to try to trip you up tonight, Nick. But
let's have it.
Yeah. So just diving into the Did You Know question of this episode, actually this question was kind of inspired by the recent loss of, Paul Hornung, the Golden Boy.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know, he's won a Heisman Trophy and he's won a MVP within the NFL. So the question is, outside of Paul Hornung, what are the other eight athletes that have won a Heisman Trophy in college and an MVP trophy in the NFL? So I gave you one. So that's Paul Hornung.
So there's 9 total.
9 total. So you have to name the 8 after Paul.
Okay. All right, I'll do that after this break. American Football Stories is brought to you by Coach Paint. Coach Paint is a great tool that allows us to add graphics to player highlight clips similar to the graphics you see on TV. Coach Paint offers the ability to clearly illustrate video while increasing retention of information in a shorter amount of time. Up your game with Coach Paint today.
Yeah, so before the break, we actually went down to the Did You Know question, and to the audience, we said that Paul Hornung won the Heisman Trophy and he actually won an MVP award. What are the other players in the history that have won a Heisman Trophy and an MVP award? So it's a total of 9, but we gave you guys 1, so we have 8 more. So it's all on you, Nick. So run down the 8.
This is brutal. This is brutal too, and a little bit surprising because Heisman Trophy winners are notorious for not doing well in the NFL.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Tony Dorsett.
Okay. Keep going.
Is that a green light?
No, I'm gonna give you the green light after. I want you.
Oh no, I gotta know if I gotta know how many I got left. Tony Dorsett is one, right?
Tony Dorsett is not one.
Oh, do you know NFL MVP? Are you kidding me? All right. Man, I thought that'd be the easiest one. Woodson?
Nope.
Charles Woodson didn't win one. I don't think. I don't think Carson Palmer would have done it.
Nope. Oh man,
Don't think Palmer.
you're
No, I mean it's like the Heisman winners. They don't. I'm stunned that. What's really showing is I need to go back and study up on my Heisman winners. All right, Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell.
ding 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 ding. There you
Okay,
go.
that's got to be one right there. Sorry, my brain's starting to flow a little bit here. I'm getting on a roll. Earl Campbell. Staubach.
There you go. There you go.
Roger Staubach.
All right. So you got two down, 6 more to go.
Let me ask. Let me ask. Let me pull the audience here, / just you. Pull the questioner. How many are pre 1960?
Just one.
Just one. Okay. All right.
Yeah, just one.
All right. That gives me a little bit of hope. It's great. It's great television here.
Yeah, so let's go over the ones that you got correct so far. You got Roger Staubach and Earl Campbell.
Yeah, Roger Staubach, Earl Campbell. God, in league MVP, because like Jim Plunkett was a Super Bowl MVP, but he wasn't a league MVP. I don't think.
Yeah, he wasn't.
I don't think he wasn't a league MVP. Cam Newton.
Okay, there we go. There we go. So that's 3.
Peyton Manning should have been a Heisman winner.
I didn't think he was going to take this long, Nick.
He should have been a Heisman winner. I don't think this is an easy question.
It's not. It's not. And to your point, you're right. A lot of Heisman Trophy winners do not, make the transition well and actually do well in the NFL. But some of them are outliers.
Like even 9. That's a good number, man. I mean, even like like a Reggie Bush didn't win a league MVP. Like Matt Leinart didn't, Tebow didn't. That's like you're covering a lot of the 2000s there. Vince Young, he won a rookie of the year. He didn't win a league MVP. So that's covering a lot of the mid 2000s there.
I mean, it's a recent one that's definitely slipping from your graphs, and I know if you dial in, you'll definitely get this one.
A recent one. My problem is I don't follow league MVP that well. I don't follow that, so I'm trying to think of who the MVPs are. I never care about that stuff. I gotta start following that. Derrick Henry never won an MVP, did he? No. Damn it.
Come on, Nick. You're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me.
Well, it wasn't Mark Ingram either. Mariota didn't do it. Jameis didn't do it. Baker wouldn't won an MVP. Kyler. Eddie George.
Not Eddie George.
Eddie George, man. Rashawn Salam was not good. Rashawn Salam, however you say that, he wasn't good.
Yeah, couple running backs you're missing off that list.
I'm shocked Dorsett's not on that list. Barry Sanders.
There you go.
Barry Sanders. All right.
Barry Sanders.
All right, so I got 4 down. 4 to go. I always just Barry Sanders to me, just because of my age, it's Detroit Lions. I barely think of him as a college football player. Like Marino didn't win a Heisman. He didn't win a Heisman. Elway didn't win a Heisman.
I mean, you got two more running backs.
Adrian Peterson didn't win the Heisman. He never won a Heisman. I know I'm gonna be pissed when I don't get this here, but I'm about for the sake of time, ready to turn it over to you.
Yeah, I just really want you to get the more recent one, and if not, then I'm gonna have to tell the audience, just go down the list. I can't believe you can't get this one, Nick. I can't believe this one.
Man, I'm racking my brain so hard right now. I'm racking my brain.
Well, for the sake of time, we're gonna let the audience in on this one. So those other players that is definitely escaping your memory right now, Nick, is Marcus Allen.
Marcus Allen, all right. I would have got him.
Marcus Allen and OJ Simpson, the Juice, and the one that I really wanted you to get that just happened last year, Lamar Jackson.
Bro, you said running back.
Well, yeah, two more on the list, yeah, for the running back position. But that was the more recent one, Lamar Jackson winning the MVP award last year in the Heisman a couple years back. And the last player to run off that list, it predates the 1960s. It's Frank Sinkwich.
Oh, I wouldn't have got that from Georgia. Yeah. I know he played at Georgia. Yeah. I didn't know how his pro career was. I just know the name from the Georgia list. All right. You know what? I put my 4 up against a lot of people. I think 4 off the list isn't bad. Marcus Allen, OJ. Should have gotten those. Lamar too. Frank Sinkwich, I never was gonna get Sinkwich, so I feel good about that. Good question, man. Good question. All right. That was our Did You Know question, brought to you by Coach Paint. Up your game with Coach Paint today. It's great software. Let us know if you're interested in using it. We put up their clips on our YouTube channel. Check it out. We got a playlist on our YouTube channel here. Rob, go ahead and read us out, man.
Once again, great episode, Nick. A lot of good games tonight. This past weekend, some good games that we're actually going to break down, earlier this week. But with that being said, I would just like to appreciate the listeners to listen to this episode of American Football Stories. Once again, they can find us on Apple Podcasts and YouTube, and please subscribe and rate us 5 stars. Follow us on Twitter at American FB Stories, and check out our website, AmericanFootballStories.com. Once again, my name is Robert Parker, and my co-host is Nick Knudsen. Thank you guys for joining us.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out. Because it matters.
I hope there's Bigfoot. I don't think there is. The reason I don't think there is because we found bones of dinosaurs and everything else, but we haven't found bones that I've heard of Bigfoot.
I'm very upset. We shouldn't have been in the ball game with fast field goal. The coach had sent him in. We shouldn't have sent him in. That's a dang coaching mistake. The kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
We just got to stop that little inside trap. The option didn't hurt us much. We played pretty hard. We just got to stop that inside thing. Offensively, we kind of sputtered around, got the ball in the end zone. Defensively, we got to get out off the field on that 2-minute drive.
Injuries to your offensive line. What do you do in the second half?
Oh, we're just go play. We just got to keep playing.
Thank you, Coach.
He has a magnificent personality, I'll tell you.
We receive a lot of mail during the course of the season, and a lot of it's good mail, a lot of it's bad. And one of the
I would say that most of it is good, though, isn't it, Bill?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd say 95 to 98% of the mail we get is always good.
But the one question that keeps coming up where Woody Hayes' name is involved, they say you're a man of no mercy. And yet,
you know, frankly, I don't care much what they think.